What is this impact of a bomb they threw in on? My reaction is that of horror, because we don't know what we have done to deserve this, especially as we have been engaged in discussions with South Africa, and if they had any people that they suspected were here, they could have told us, and we could have found out all about it. But this has come unexpected.
The South African forces, defense forces, attacked ANC targets. The ANC is committed to violence. The ANC have carried out various terrorist activities and acts against innocent South African civilians. The ANC is conducting a campaign of violence from these countries against South Africa, and surely this must stop. The government has a responsibility to do whatever it can to protect its own citizens against attempts of terrorism that are emanating from these countries.
We have made plain that we condemn this kind of cross-border violence by South Africa, have done so on many occasions, and I've said that it was particularly deplorable that these attacks should take place today, at a time when the Commonwealth Eminent Persons Group is actually in South Africa, trying on behalf of the Commonwealth to promote a search for a peaceful solution. That's a plain, straightforward, instant reaction. We regret it very much.
Well, it's an extremely provocative act, of course, in international terms, but I think to put it in its domestic context, President Botha was being driven into somewhat of a corner by his own cooperation with the Commonwealth Peace and Dialogue Initiative. It had reached the point where there was growing pressure on Pretoria to make some physical gesture which could begin the process. And as you know, the Commonwealth team had just returned from consultations with the African National Congress leadership in Lusaka, and were back in Cape Town for a final round. And I think that President Botha has started to run into growing resistance within his own ranks, and even indeed in the cabinet, where there have been public statements from ministers indicating their displeasure at the degree of foreign interference and being dictated to by foreign powers.
I wouldn't think so. The ANC gave no indication whatsoever that they are de-escalating their violence during negotiations with the EPG. I do not think it's a sensitive time. It's very important that the South African government must protect, as I've said, its citizens, and this must and these attempts must and efforts must take place at all times.
We are completely outraged, in fact, at the total disregard for the territorial integrity of our neighboring countries in Southern Africa. And the UDF feels that the way the South African Defence Force, and in particular the South African government, in fact, has been carrying on, has been to suggest that to them there is no question of a peaceful resolution of the conflict in this country.
That was a course which we were able to set to one side during our discussions in the Commonwealth meeting in order to embark on a different one, the work of the Commonwealth Eminent Persons Group. That's had very widespread support. I would still like to think it can succeed. Of course, it's deplorable that it should have been jeopardized by what's happened today. We shall have to consider the position very carefully.
Striking at three leading Commonwealth countries within the region while there's a Commonwealth negotiating team in South Africa is the most provocative action one could actually imagine. So that this will be a very serious setback for the prospects of dialogue and a tremendous boost to the international sanctions lobby.